Bless the Lord, O my soul, blessed art thou, Lord.
I remember listening to an interview of an exorcist who shared briefly how a struggling heavy metal band turned to curses, and after that their music started selling very well.
I was at the International Exorcist Conference in Rome about 3 years ago, and one of the people that spoke had been very involved in heavy metal. And he said, our songs were not selling at all. And then we paid this person to come in and curse our music, and the music started selling like hotcakes. Same music. We have to be careful where we're treading, because he'd love to pull us over the line.
And the reason why I brought that up is because of this particular interview. I'm going to share just a short clip of it, and there's a link to the full interview in the description box below if you want to watch it in full. Anyway, this man used to be part of a satanic heavy metal band, and he said something very interesting about the lyrics. Listen to this.
Back when I was young, I think I was around 10, my parents bought me a Ouija board for my birthday. So, it looked cool. It was interesting, how letters and stuff. And so I sat there with my mom, put the thing on the Ouija board and put her hands on it, but nothing happened. My mom and her friend got on there, they put their hands on it and started moving all over the place. I believe that's where the demonic came in, because that's when the drugs started happening, the abuse and all that stuff. But then I got into, there was a point in my life where my father was missing. He was not in my life. And so I didn't have a father figure. So I would listen to Black Sabbath, and so I looked to that as far as a father figure, because he was talking about the hurt that I was feeling. I was feeling these things that he was talking about. So it was almost like a father figure to me. I just gravitated towards that, and it was romantic to me. It really was, and just the hardcore nature, the rebellious nature of it. It really appealed to me, and then that's where it's almost like Sabbath was the gateway to the more hardcore stuff. So then I started listening to the Iron Maidens, the Merciful Fates, the Slayer, the whole shmeal I was into, and it was a time in my life where I needed a father. It was a tender age, of 13, 14, 15, and my dad was not in the picture, so I would listen to bands like Black Sabbath, and things that they were talking about were things that I gravitated towards, and it was almost like the hurt that I was feeling, they were consoling me. So when Ozzy Osbourne would sing the stuff that he was singing about, the hurt, the anguish, the drugs and all that stuff, he was speaking to me like I needed, I was hurting for something, and it kind of filled that spot that I was hurting for. And I needed something to relieve, my upbringing, my adolescence, because a boy, when you're a boy, for 13, 14, 15, you need a father, you need someone to help you. And it just hurt me so much because I love my dad so much, and he was gone. But when I would listen to the music, it just spoke to me. It spoke to my heart, and it gave me strength. The world's my oyster, and so it got to the point where I'll listen to all these other bands, and it would elevate to the next level of hardcore, the hardcore stuff. You listen to Iron Maiden, like the Iron Maiden Number of the Beast, it's you get so desensitized to it. They talk about the Number of the Beast, and hallowed be thy name, and all this stuff, and you listen to it so much, you get so desensitized to it. When I was listening to it, no one was rebuking me. Don't listen to that, and it's just it became normal to me. It gets in you, and it seeps into your spirit. It turns you into something that you don't realize, that you're getting possessed by something, and you're turning into something that that's pretty nasty, and you don't realize it. And during that time period, I would start going to shows, and then I would start experiencing, bands like, Black Flag, Dead Kennedys, the Suicidal Tendencies, and I was, and it's so intimate in these settings, to where you feel spirits start circling around, and it gets into your head, and it doesn't leave, and then the drugs just accentuate it more. It seeps into your dreams pretty much, and then it almost turned, it's almost like at that point in my life, it was like the dreams were becoming like a reality, but it was a fantasy.
There was an article dated March 5th in 1990 where it was reported that Cardinal John O'Connor blamed heavy metal rock music for popularizing satanic worship. And after listening to that interview just now, it somehow confirmed what Cardinal O'Connor said back then. And that interview also reminded me of something Father Reehil shared previously on heavy metal bands consecrating their albums to the devil. Listen to this.
Music goes straight to the heart. And we all know this because we can just hear a song and immediately it affects emotion in us. Good music can go right to the heart in a good way that can draw you deeper in love with God. And demonic music can affect you in a negative way that can lead you away from God. On top of that, many of these, back in the day, the heavy metal bands, the rock bands of America back in the 80s and 70s, many of them would consecrate their albums to the devil. And they would have a black mass before they released the album to send demons to attach to everybody who buys the album, so they would further advance their music. And I know a priest. He's not a friend of mine, but we've spoken before. And before he was a priest, he was a real estate agent in Los Angeles and made many millions of dollars. Drove a Ferrari, and he went to several of these black masses when he was a real estate agent because he was invited because of his wealth. So he saw it firsthand that they do these things with their music. These days, that was when it was hidden. These days, they're not hiding it. All these, even Taylor Swift, she's really heavily into witchcraft and occult. At least she's giving us that impression by her concert tours and her video. Trying to send another message, it's failing because all she's projecting is witchcraft and occult and sorcery. So what happened? I don't know. I think the power and the money came, and you get deeper in debt to the devil, so to speak, and you start doing his bidding. Because this isn't a one-time thing. This has happened with so many of these. Katy Perry you started singing in church. Many of them are. And they're not trying to hide it because they're producing videos that keep putting the cult symbols out to the public. They're not hiding it. Whenever we are promoting or engaging or paying to watch other people sin, as we do with the movies, sin is an open door because, as any exorcist will tell you, it only takes one mortal sin to become possessed. Highly unlikely. It doesn't happen very often, but that's all it takes. The devil only needs one mortal sin. And then a lot of times the themes of this music from these artists is also very risque, very immodest, very sexual, and they're promoting all the capital sins. So you're a 15-year-old boy or girl, and this is like exciting to you, and then you say, I want to be like them, and then you start thinking, maybe I should be behaving like this if this is what makes you cool. And they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea this is inviting demons into their life. And then by the time they're 18, they're severely depressed and have suicidal thoughts, and they don't know why. And the parents are so upset, and nobody's looking at the obvious. What are they feeding on? When I say feeding, I mean, what are they putting in their ears and through their eyes?
Most people I know, young people, think Jesus Christ is a swear word.
Yeah.
Even at Solid Rock, where we have the teenagers down there,
Right.
They have no idea who Jesus Christ is.
Yeah.
He's not preached enough.
Yeah.
Most written about character of all time.
Yes.
In history.
Right.
And yet people go out of their way to not believe in him.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because they don't want to give up their godship.
Yeah.
They want to be, I'm a good enough, they believe the Hollywood version of, I do more good than bad, that kind of thing. And I go, boy, is that, Satan's got you right where he wants you, to believe that.
Yeah.
I said, because I am the way, the truth, and the life, and
That's
no one
right.
cometh to the Father but by me.
Right.
I said, those are the truest words ever spoken. And
Yeah.
how can you deny that?
And by the way, I've been meaning to cover atheism one of these days because I see there's an increasing number of people who say they don't believe in God in the comments. And there's actually an interview of someone, a former atheist, who shared a little bit of his story. As always, if you want to listen to the whole thing in full, there's a link to it in the description box below.
It was a progressive thing. Like this whole experience that I had been through with the demons obviously opened me up to the idea of a spiritual reality, right? Like that much was true. And if they're real, then the opposite must be real, right? Like if that was real and everything that happened was real, then the opposite is real. And I would say that all I had to really do is to become willing to believe in God. That was the first step, like admitting that of myself I am nothing and I cannot. and understanding that it's going to take something greater than me to fix this problem. And I didn't really know what that thing was that I was appealing to, higher power, as you could say, just appealing to God as I understood God in that moment, and that was sort of what opened the doorway. But then slowly over time, over my sobriety, there was moments where it became solidified, right? Like I really, really fell in love with God after this moment. And I started to study, and I started to read a lot of books, and I started to search very deeply for who God was or what God was, So I was studying, naturally being a secular American guy, who is still anti-Christian at this point. Not so much anti-Jesus, but just like anti the idea of Christianity that was taught to me. I felt like it was too simple, and, there's got to be a more complex explanation for reality, and it can't be that simple, So I started to study like Buddhism, like Eastern mysticism, all that like New Age type stuff, like I got into the New Age for a little while. I really, really did. And, not to go too deep down that rabbit hole, because I know a lot of people know about the New Age who have heard about it, at least from a Christian perspective. But what I noticed being free from that is when you're studying it and reading it, it all seems very profound. But there's always this weird darkness around you, and around that scene where it's like you're never enough. You can never really find the answer, right? Like it's just this endless rabbit hunt, like a carrot on a stick of like, if you can just get the right knowledge or meditate for long enough, or, do the right energy or whatever, then you can finally find truth and enlightenment and all these things. And it's just exhausting mentally. And a lot of people in that, they all seem like they have so many problems in life, and they're all sad, and it's so like the energy, like they say love and light, but when you really start getting into it, it's actually was not spiritually satisfying to me. It was like just more questions, and the more you look for like knowledge, like the more knowledge you gain, the greater your doubt becomes, and that makes you seek for more knowledge, which increases the doubt, which is just this never ending, you'll never know the answer, right? Because it comes down to faith.
And of course, speaking of Father Reehil, he often warned people about Hollywood, and I think he's one of the few priests that talked about this quite a lot.
Jesus Christ purchased your soul with his blood, so he owns it, nobody else. But the fact that you could bargain with the devil, that's true, and you don't want to do that. So if you're seeking anything, and you when you say the words, I will do anything to become XYZ, famous, rich, powerful, the devil's listening, and he will come slinking in and try to capitalize on that statement. A lot of people don't believe in the devil. A lot of people don't believe in God. But that doesn't change the fact that God is real, Satan is real, evil is real, and he looks for nothing more than to trap you in his web and claim you for his own. And I would say Hollywood has done a big part in that end. The things that come out of Hollywood, they used to, I think it's always been an evil place, but it was masked pretty well. But now the mask seems to be off. And now they're just putting out all sorts of very evil and, I don't know, promiscuous, and if not even pornographic films. So be careful about what you take in to your soul through your eyes and ears, because there's a lot of bad stuff out there. All this stuff about witchcraft and these witches, there's so many shows about witches, trendy witches that look cool. It's not cool. Being a witch is not cool. You're working with the demonic world. Don't let your kids watch these things, and don't you watch these things. Don't indulge in capital sin television. So the Kardashians and the Real Housewives and all these sort of things. Don't watch those things. And for some reason, we're now living in a time when we exalt these people. We put them on a pedestal. We desire to have this lifestyle. We want to be famous. This is why all these people are rising up on all these social media platforms, the TikTokers and Instagram account people. They want, and Facebook even, they want to be liked and they want to be adored. Because in Hollywood, this is what's happened. We've raised up new idols. Remember, they used to worship the golden calf, or make an idol to a bull or a snake or something like that. Well, we've skipped the animal kingdom. We went straight to people. We've made idols out of people. We've made idols out of celebrity of all sorts. We've made idols out of actors, and we've made idols out of singers. We've made idols out of sports people. Hollywood has always been a place of deception because they portray one thing when behind the scenes there's a whole lot of other things happening. And we know this now because in the last, 5 or 10 years, we've seen all of this dark side become uncovered. When we look at people like Harvey Weinstein, who was abusing people for decades, and there's no way to, the people are trapped, especially the women, but it's happened to men too. If they go out there as a young, teenager or 20-year-old person trying to make a living as an actor, they're walking into, literally, it's lambs walking into the slaughterhouse with the wolves. And so these very deplorable people in power, are requiring all sorts of sexual favors to get a job. And if they tell on them, they'll never work in Hollywood again. So they've created an environment of really, it's an unequal playing field. There's no way to have a fair shake for many, many, many people for many years. But finally, people are starting to come forward and tell that this is not a great place, and it's actually very hostile towards women and even towards the young boys. There's been several young men who have stated that they were sexually abused by people in power when they arrived in Hollywood. So it's a very bad and deceptive place.
Well, I think that is all for the video this time. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. And hopefully all of you have learned a lot from this video. And remember, if you have any feedback or suggestion, please let us know in the comments below. And until the next one, thanks again for watching, and may God bless you.